Hello, friends and fellow Francophiles out there. Welcome to number 27, episode 27 of my live video tour series. This is where I live stream Paris to you, direct on Facebook in real time. If you're not in Paris, but you wish you could be, then I'm your man because we're doing this every week. Thank you for joining me. I've got 4 live viewers so far, so I know that I'm connected. Fantastic. Otherwise, I guess you're listening to me on the replay at the moment, and I thank you for that. We're going to have some fun today because we're looking at a jewel of Gothic and Renaissance architecture called Saint-Eustache. We're in the first arrondissement of Paris today, right in the heart of town, near an area that's known as Les Halles, which is a very popular spot, and it's a sunny day today. Everyone's hanging out enjoying this slightly cooler weather because, boy, we had quite a hot series of days, quite a heat wave. So Saint-Eustache, let's move around a little bit. This is a church that is considered a beautiful blend of Gothic architecture going into the Renaissance period. Let me zoom up there for you. Let me give you the sole pan just to set the mood, and then we'll focus on some details. I'm going to take us inside this church. It's going to be fantastic. Phyllis Cartwright is here. Fantastic. Love when Phyllis shows up. Robin Taylor's here. Well, now it really feels like a party. So Saint-Eustache in the first arrondissement, you know, these churches, whether or not you are a religious person, they are fantastic treasure troves, and I'm going to try to display a little bit of that and give you a feel for that today. Take a look up top here. You're going to have to really actually let me back up because I want you to check out this church has not 1 but 2 sundials. 2 for the price of 1 as far as sundials go. So let me over here. I'm actually going to stand up on this bench. And there's a pole in the way. Beyond that pole, above the round window, I don't know if you can make it out on the video, but squint your eyes, you can see way up top around that circular window are some Roman numerals, and that is a sundial up there. And you have the numbers 7, 8, 9, 10 on the left, and then you have 6, 5, 4, 3 on the right-hand side. But then, that's 1. And then further down, let's get closer. I should have done this whole thing in reverse. I started close and then I had to back up. Just to the left of that first row of arched windows right there in the center of the screen is another sundial, if you can make that out, with those dark lines drawn along the limestone. And right now, I don't know if you can tell, but the shadow is actually on the windows themselves, so I don't know what it means, what that means as far as what time of day it is. I guess once the shadow of the sundial hits the windows, it means it's time to stop work and go home. And that's all you really need to know. You don't need to know the exact time. So some beautiful Gothic elements here, some buttresses, some flying buttresses up there. Let's pause a moment to admire this, how the sun, I don't want to get too poetic, but let's say the sun is caressing the limestone today. Let's use the word caressing. Let's see how many times I can slip the word caressing into the show today. Let's go inside. So Saint-Eustache is a church that a lot of people don't necessarily get to. It gets overshadowed by a lot of others, of course, but as is often the case, if you really start to dig deep and you get inside and you figure out what you're looking at, boy, such an amazing arrangement of objects and anecdotes. So I am going to talk quietly. All right, so I am going to have to talk more quietly for sure. Joyce Schauger wants to have a drinking game where every time I say the word caress, you have to take a shot of espresso. I like that. So the chapels are magnificent here. I'm going to tell you about several chapels in this church. We can't go through all of them, but boy, fantastic stuff. This is the church that I posted as the announcement on Facebook that you may have seen yesterday. I can see some of you are just joining. So we are in Saint-Eustache in the first arrondissement today. A great treasure trove of objects and details here. Let's find a bit of meditation here. I'm having some technical difficulties. Every now and then my equipment wants to be naughty. And sorry about that. And there we go. There we go. There's the meditation. Annie McGregor, I see your name. I know that you appreciate the churches of Paris and you asked to see more of them. So I'm going to partly dedicate this episode to you, Annie McGregor. Okay, so Saint-Eustache was started in the 1530s, which for Italy and a lot of parts of Europe was the Renaissance period, but Paris, it seems, was a little slow to jump on the Renaissance bandwagon, meaning that in the 1530s, this was Gothic. Gothic, which is the case with a lot of residences and other churches built around that time in Paris. It took them about 100 years to complete this church, and mostly because of religious wars and because of lack of funds. This organ is spectacular. Okay, Donna says she can't hear me, so I'm going to get the microphone nice and close. It's very quiet in this church and I don't want to disturb anybody. So you can let me know if the audio is okay. This is the largest organ in France, so they say, or at least one of the largest. Can people hear me? I'm going to pop off the little furry thing off my mic. There, hopefully you can hear me better. Okay, great. So 8,000 pipes in this organ. They have to clean it every 30 years or so, and it takes them 4 months to disassemble all of those pewter pipes, some very large, some very, very tiny. 4 months of cleaning. And if they want to tune this thing, it takes them 2 months just to tune all of those pipes. This is from the 1850s. One of the great composers in France, in Paris, called César Franck, helped to inaugurate this organ, and they have live recitals or performances every Sunday at 5:30. This is an organ that actually has its own Facebook page, believe it or not. So that's a good way, if you're interested in the concert that they'll be playing on Sunday, you can find out exactly what is on the menu, so to speak. So that's the organ. This church of Saint-Eustache was one that was rare in that it represented a blend of parishioners. So it was the nobility, it was the working class, it was also notably the vendors and the market workers of Les Halles. We are in an area called Les Halles, which for about 800 years was the central marketplace where, for food and bread and all of that, flowers and all that good stuff. And in the 60s it was moved. Let's explore a little bit here. Now the vaulted ceilings, let me show you up above the altar here. These are actually as tall as Notre Dame, which makes them the tallest in Paris. 33 meters high, 115 feet. And this is François Ier, which was one of the Renaissance era kings of France. He wanted a church that would rival Notre Dame. And some would argue he managed to do that. He laid the first stone, of course died before it was completed, which is pretty common. Okay, let's explore some of the chapels. This first chapel we're going to look at is a little bit dark. They didn't illuminate it today, but it'll give you an idea of what's going on. This is the chapel that is directly behind the altar, and it tends to be the most prominent and the most important. And quite often, as is the case here, it's dedicated to the Holy Virgin, to the Virgin Mary. The statue you see in the center of Mary and Christ was done by a sculptor whose name you probably have heard of. His name was Pigalle. Anyone who's gone through the Montmartre area probably recognizes that name of Pigalle. So that neighborhood up in Montmartre is named after this great French sculptor. So he did the sculpture. And then to the sides we have panels, frescoes, that were painted by a gentleman called Couture. And Couture was notably the professor or the painting teacher of Edouard Manet from the Impressionist group. So Manet's teacher essentially did these frescoes. Let me show you what's going on up top. And the chapel just next to that one of the Holy Virgin is a beautiful sculpted tomb of Colbert. Colbert is buried here. He's there. And this tomb was designed by, we'll get close to it and I'll show you the details. It was designed by the painter of Versailles, a gentleman called Lebrun. So Lebrun designed this, which is already a pretty good credentials for this tomb. Colbert was a famous minister in the 17th century, and these ministers tended to run the country of France more so than the kings. I just want to zoom in a bit, if you can make that out on the screen. The beautiful work here on this marble. Look at that. Absolutely stunning. Wouldn't you like to caress this statue? Everybody take a shot. And he's asking me if any of this church was destroyed in World War II. I personally haven't come across that in my research, but it may be true. On either side of Colbert here, we have two statues, two allegories representing over there faith. That's faith. And on the right-hand side is abundance. And if you zoom in on abundance, she has quite an abundance on her lap. If you can make that out to the left, we have jewels and coins, and then flowers and sort of a harvest with grapes there. If we zoom in right here, the end of a carrot or a turnip, I guess that's a turnip, right? And there's her hand gently caressing the abundance. Let me go nice and slow here. Back up to Colbert. Colbert was the first benefactor of this church. Some nice paintings in here as well. Okay, now people want the fuzzy thing back on my mic. All right. Hold on. I guess I'm popping my peas. Okay, the fuzzy thing's back on the mic. That's Colbert. I knew the audio would be tricky inside this church. Next to the Colbert Chapel, we have a painting that's been attributed to Rubens, Peter Paul Rubens, which is one of my favorite all-time painters. I adore this guy. Now, honestly, sometimes this is the case where it's either the artist or the school that he trained, or the people that would help him prepare paintings. So is this Rubens? Is it his students from the school of Rubens? We may never know, but I like to believe. I mean, we're in a church. I'm going to keep the faith that this is Rubens himself who painted the disciples at Emmaus, is what we're looking at here, 1611. This is a church also where Richelieu, the great cardinal, was baptized. One of the great mistresses of French history, called Madame de Pompadour, if I'm saying that correctly. She was baptized here. And also Louis XIV had his first communion in this church, the Sun King himself. What we're looking at here is a Keith Haring. So what a fun succession of art here. We've got the Virgin Mary by Pigalle, and then we've got the Colbert tomb by Lebrun. Then next to that we've got the Rubens, and here we've got a more modern Keith Haring. I'm sure you recognize this style. Keith Haring traveled all over Europe, and notably in Rome and Paris and whatnot. So he always wanted his work exhibited in Paris. So there is a foundation, I believe it's called the Spirit Foundation, that was founded by John Lennon and Yoko Ono in New York. And they fulfilled his wish of installing some of his art in Paris. So that's why this is here. Really lovely. Let me just crane my neck and find the name of that work for you. The Life of Christ. And I'll just give you one last look. The Life of Christ. I'm trying to fix the exposure for you. Slightly better? Okay. I'm working for you, people. I'm doing my best here. Let's take a look at those vaulted ceilings again, if we can. Annie McGregor says that your ears are caressed by that better audio. I'm glad. Well done, Annie. This is a beauty. Frankly, I don't know who did it, and I don't know the story behind it. But that's, it's not mosaic, but it looks like it. It's actually painted to be golden brick behind her. And she's got a dove floating near her ear. Just gorgeous. And while we're here, check that out. Wow. And that's not all. What a visually stunning place this is. I also happen to like this right here. It's actually to hold holy water, so let me show you that part first. Holy water there. But the statue is magnificent. There we go. Wow. I mean, if that visual doesn't get you in the gut, whether you're religious or not, incredible. Okay, this one's really fun. So we're in an area called Les Halles. As I mentioned earlier, for 800 years it was the place of the central market of the city. And this represents the market actually being shut down. So there's a date inscribed at the bottom of this. This is the 28th of February, 1969. So after 8 centuries of everybody relying on that central market, it was a bit run down and a bit overcrowded, so they moved it out to a town called Rungis to the south where you can still go. Mostly just the restaurant owners go there to pick up their food for the day or for the week. But look at this, beautiful. I mean, it's all in sculpted relief here. It has a very charming cartoon or puppet quality to it. Let me try to reach in a little bit. In the back, do you see Saint-Eustache? The church that we're in the back there. Now, from this vantage point, let me show you there's something fun. Do you see the oranges there, the box of oranges? Just underneath, there are actually 2 people smooching, if I can get closer. Right there, in the center of the screen. Can you make that out? 2 people having a little kiss on their way out. This is a work by Raymond Mason, who's an American, but he spent a lot of time in Europe. So that really represents the fact that this church was not only for the nobility, like guys like Colbert, whose tomb we saw, but also for the average, everyday working Joe, and certainly the ones who are working in the market of Les Halles. Here you may already know this, but this type of statue is known as a pietà, no matter who does it. Christ in Christ in his mother's arms, I should say, being caressed by the Virgin Mary. And just paintings all around. Now we're at the start of the nave, the central alley of the church, so it gives us a nice opportunity to admire those 115-foot vaulted ceilings that rival Notre Dame. Quite pleased with the cell service so far. Now, like most churches you'll come across, there's a statue of one of my viewers, Ken Romero, uses a term that I quite like. He calls her Joni on the pony. This is Joan of Arc. Great. We've got a viewer, Lily Perez, who says that she lived in Paris for 2 years and she had no idea how many treasures were inside of this church. Thank you, Lily. That's a great compliment. I appreciate that. Look at those colors coming through the glass here. Ooh. Now this is the side of the church that the sun happens to be hitting at the moment. So we'll get some good visuals here. And let me just show you this. I think this is good for meditation. Okay. This is a chapel dedicated to Saint Cécile, which you can see written there. But there are these dark red plaques. I want to point your attention to this one on the left. You won't be able to read it quite likely, but it references something that makes me love this church even more. Mozart visited Paris twice in his life. Once as a 7-year-old boy when he was a child prodigy and he was being taken out to Versailles to play for all the kings and the royal family out there, and he was a huge hit, Mozart. He was staying in the Marais. If you take my tour of the Marais, I'll show you exactly where he stayed with the rest of the Mozart family. But the second time he came through here is in his 20s, and his mom died. His mom died here in Paris. The two of them came, and only Mozart left Paris. When she died, the service was here. So that's what the plaque is reminding us of. So 1778, Mozart's mom dies in Paris, and this is where he would have attended his mom's funeral. So I know that these chairs have been replaced over the years, but I just kind of wonder, where did Mozart sit? I guess he was up front near the altar. But it just adds another layer of history, another layer of charm and intrigue, really, to think that that great composer, who I'm personally a big fan of, would have come here and walked, through these same halls, essentially. There's a pulpit. It's worth a look. Ooh, sorry. I'll try to give you the slow descent. Marianne's digging those stairs, and so am I. Wow, look at this. Now, this is what really gets me going. Look at that in wood. And then I'm going to scooch down a little bit. And here's the iron just beneath it. Look at that. Can I get both of them in frame at the same time? That's the question. Can we do something like that? It's almost beauty overload. I want you to see the ceiling of this chapel. We're on the south side. We started on the north side, by the way. Are we going to be able to see anything with the strong sunlight? There we go. Hopefully you can make that out. Red background with the gold motif. Oh, so good. Get some more meditation here to the left. That's the north rose window. Let's see how much of that stained glass I can fit into the frame. There we go. Thanks for all the nice comments, guys. I'm glad you're appreciating this, and you're really caressing my ego today with all these great comments. Here's a bit of sun coming in through the window and hitting these paintings. If you can make that out. Kelly Wells says that she's almost wants to cry. Well, I'm right there with you, Kelly. So, you know, when you come to Paris, go to Notre Dame, go see it. But then come over here and enjoy almost nobody. You can be nice and quiet. You can keep yourself busy for a couple of hours just roaming around and enjoying the atmosphere here and all the details. This last chapel I want to show you is very dark. Hopefully you can make out a few things. But it's a chapel, you know, if you've ever been in France and you have fallen in love with the charcuterie, and the cured meats, well, if you've ever said to yourself, I'd like to go pray to the altar of cured meats, this is it. This is the chapel of the charcutiers, which are the men who sell those sorts of things. You could say it's the chapel of the butchers, but it's really the chapel of the charcuterie vendors. Some decidedly more modern art here on the side. And then there's not much in the center, actually. So if you do want to come pray to the altar of cured meats, that's what you're going to be coming to. We should probably light a candle in honor of charcuterie. Look at that. Man. Look at the colors of the stone. Whew. That's what keeps me coming back to places like this. Wow. Okay, they have lit up the chapel of the Holy Virgin. Do you see it there? That's where we started. So why don't we come around full circle? Literally and figuratively, actually. And there we go. Oh, look at this. Let's go nice and slow. Again, sculpture by Pigalle. Paintings by one of the teachers of Manet. Oh, pretty breathtaking stuff. All right, let's check the time. Let's pop outside. One last look. So you can all say your goodbyes to Saint-Eustache today on this Saturday. Thanks for all the hearts and the smileys and everything, folks. Appreciate that. Let's go outside. Look at this. Remember, we looked at this from when we were entering from the other side, but this is absolutely the better side. Just a little extra loveliness on your way out, in case you weren't satiated and satisfied inside. Ah, there we go. Now I can talk at full voice. We are outside. Here's some live music. This is Les Halles. Almost has been completely redone. While we're here and we've got a little extra time, let me show you a view that I find is quite nice. Ooh, people whizzing by on scooters and such. That's a relatively new canopy of the Forum des Halles. Forum des Halles is essentially a big underground mall. And they've done a pretty good job. I mean, this space, as you can see, there's some green space for sure, but it's also made for scooters and skateboards and things. Let's find out what's going on with this music. I actually had planned to go in the other direction, but we'll go this way. There's another view of the canopy. I gotta say, this area is better since they rehabilitated it. When I came here 8 years ago, this area was not quite as inviting, shall we say. Let's go groove to some tunes.
Le prochain morceau est un morceau de Disney, donc les enfants, si vous aimez Disney, vous pouvez danser. Les parents, si vous aimez les Disney,
I think they said they're going to do a Cinderella tune. Let's get a little closer. Oh, my daughter loves this song. Taya, where are you? You gotta tune in. Misters! Ah, they shut off just as we arrived. I wanted to take us through some mist. Alright folks, I think we're going to wrap it up. Hope you enjoyed this one. Let's take a look back at the church where we were, Saint-Eustache, first arrondissement. I want to remind everybody, if you're new to this idea, new to this project, every week I'm bringing Paris to you live in real time. So as I said at the start of this video, if you're not in Paris but you wish you were, then I'm your guy. I'm going to keep you as close to Paris as I can week after week. I'm a full-time tour guide, so you'll see the link in the description. You can find me there. Check out my Instagram, follow my blog, etc. And I'm on Patreon. If you want to become a subscriber and get extra stuff and support this project and help it to survive and thrive, then you can check out that link as well in the description. If you missed any of this, go check out the replay. For my Patreon subscribers, we're going to have a private cafe chat in a few minutes' time with one of our fellow freaks called Catherine Barnett.